Many thanks for staying tuned. It's still the conversation here on Lagos Television. Last week, Thursday, members of the Green Chamber talking about the House of Representatives passed 4 bills, namely the Nigerian Tax Bill, the Tax Administration Bill, the Revenue Tax Board Bill, and the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill. All 4 bills, they gave a nod to pass before members of the House of Representatives. And if all news, what we heard last week, hopefully by this week or at the latest next week, members of the House of Representatives would give a final passage to that bill, and it will be sent to Mr. President for assent after the ratification by the senators as well. But again, let's look at what these bills have to offer Nigerians. You remember that before Thursday, there have been so many issues surrounding the passage of these bills, where a lot of Nigerians also felt that rather than be a positive, the bill was going to impoverish several regions in the country. But we've heard that's on the contrary, that won't be the case. But biggest last week of what was also done was the retention of the value-added tax at 7.5%. And so that's part and some other issues we'll be taking a look at on the program today. And we do have the Managing Director and the CEO, Capital Plus Management Limited, Oluseyi Odufowa, who's joining us in the studio this morning. Thank you for being on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
And I know that when you came in, you did ask, how is the economy? So perhaps a good way to start will be, let's quickly take your opinion. Yesterday, again, we heard from the NBS a drop in the inflation rate for February. And, layman us, we did say that that again has not translated to a proper drop of prices in the market, even though the NBS did say that the cost of food, the cost of gas, some of the prices that actually cost a major drop in the inflation rate. But for you, I know that definitely it's some piece of good news for you. But at what point do we as Nigerians begin to see the inflation rate have a positive impact on the prices of goods and services?
Okay, so the last time I came, and we had a positive trajectory or a position that inflationary trends will drop. And we also said that for us to achieve a $1 trillion economy, we believe that there has to be a rebasing because it had been done during Jonathan's period. And according to IMF, every 10 years, a country is expected to rebase its economy. And after rebasing, we saw that inflationary trends dropped from about 38%, it shed to about 24%. And it's coming down. The food inflation, which was about 41% of aggregate inflation, also dropped to about 24% as we speak. And so, look at inflationary trends. Budget proposal is 15%, though I feel that it's going to be a tall order to achieve 15% by December 2025. But look at food. When you say that Nigerians are not feeling it, I'm a little bit amazed because we've had several discussions with Nigerians, and Nigerians agree that food prices have reduced by 15 to 20%. Yes.
Can you name some markets?
I don't go to the market, but you know, we understand the commodity market, and so I know very clearly that food inflation has reduced and the prices of foodstuffs has dropped virtually. Okay, if you want me to give you an example, there was a time I went to a supermarket in Lekki and I saw tubers of yam. You know, I know it used to cost about 6,000, 7,000 before now. I was shocked when I saw it at 3,000, the same size of tuber. And I was asking, when did this thing come down? They said in the last 2 months, which, you know, tends to go with our projections too, and the season. Thank you. And so prices of foodstuff is dropping, and that's basic, and Nigerians know that. Yes, we know that we expect that other forms of our daily life should be affected too, but you know, as we have said it several times, that by the towards the end of 2025, going into 2026, Nigerians will begin to feel it fully. Right. But as we speak, all the parameters on paper are working positively, and we believe strongly that we'll get there. The last time I was in these studios, price of crude at the global market was around 75. Yes, it has dropped to around 69, 70 as we speak, but we were pumping about 1.6 million barrels. Our project about 1.4 million barrels. Our projection is about 2 million barrels to 2 million and 6,000 barrels. But as we speak, we are pumping about 1.9 million barrels, which is affecting FX positively. Right. That's inflow of FX positively. Look at our foreign reserve, about $39 billion that we have there, and that affects our level of balance of trade. So Nigeria is moving as an economy.
Before we jump on the main topic for today, which is the tax reform, of course, the effort of the House of Reps. Yes. From your analysis so far this morning, does that give you the hope that the economy for 2025 will be better than 2024? Oh,
definitely. I want to assure you that the trajectory is going on well. 2025 is going to be a very positive year. We have started very rightly. The budget prospect, the budget template is well streamlined. And going into the tax reform, that is a major master stroke that Mr. President has looked at. Look at, in the last 50 years, we had not had a single reform in our tax administration system. So Mr. President has deemed it fit that we need to rejig all aspects of our laws. In fact, like she mentioned earlier, it was broken down into 4 aspects. And those 4 aspects touches every aspect of our tax administration, whether company income tax, whether petroleum tax, whether personal income tax, whether education tax, and every of our income head in terms of tax administration. And if you look at it, this reform favors Nigerians as citizens far more. And that is the beauty of it. Well, we could say that because of adequate sensitization, most especially in the northern region, you know, it caused a lot of brouhaha. But when everybody sat down, looked at it holistically, we know that, yes, this is the way to go. And that's the only way we'll achieve a $1 trillion economy. Okay. This tax reform will boost FX supply. This tax reform will help in achieving budget deficit. We have about 13.3 trillion deficit for 2025. This tax reform will help us to achieve it. This tax reform will bring succor to many Nigerians in terms of, I'm talking of the masses, the low-income earners too. They are fully exempted from this tax administration. They are not going to pay income tax. Anything above 800,000 below, anything above will now be staggered in terms of proration. And so, who is it going to benefit? Average Nigerians. And that is the vision of Mr. President. The beautiful thing also is that it's going to transcend beyond. So going forward now from 2025, this tax reform bill will help subsequent governments in terms of adequate laws that have been put in place to manage tax administration, to collect more taxes, dispute resolution, and even technology enabled for you to collect tax, and also to allow Nigerians to know what am I going to pay, when am I going to pay, how am I going to pay. Those bottlenecks have been solved in this tax administration bill.
Yeah, I like how you brought up the issue of expectations that
Yes.
going forward, this new bill should help successive administrations.
Yes.
But you know, we're a very dynamic set of people in Nigeria,
Yeah.
and oftentimes we also always have this policy somersault.
Yes.
Do you think that these bills have made adequate arrangement to ensure that an administration will not come tomorrow and overturn all of the beautiful things that you've stated that these bills are able to accommodate and take charge of?
Well, we can only speak for a present government.
True.
And the best thing the government can do is to ensure that these laws are enacted.
Right.
And you cannot rule away the aspect of politics. And Nigerians as a whole, and that's why our voices must be heard. When the hearing was done, that's a public hearing, we sent representatives.
Okay.
We also sent position papers too. And they were all taken, and that is the power of the citizens. So whoever is going to come after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, after his 8 years in office.
After it's 8 years, okay.
You've already concluded that he's going to spend 8 years.
Projections. After his 8 years in office, you know, whoever is coming, we have to deal with the people too. Look at, and that's the beauty of democracy. When he proposed this law in October 2024, you look at the how do I put it now? The voices, diversified voices.
Right.
You know, and you know, that's democracy. People from the north felt shortchanged. They felt that it was going to affect them. Everybody discussed. There were conversations. And that's why when everybody understood it very well, you know, it didn't take time.
Right, they bought
you know,
into it.
everybody bought into it because we now know that, you know, it is for the masses. We now know that, you know, Mr. President has a lot of compassion for Nigerians, and this is the way to go.
Okay, let's speak to the 7.5 VAT, which was retained by the House of Reps member in this particular bill.
Yes.
Ideally, the Taiwo Oyedele committee suggested that it should be increased over the years to 15% by 2020.
Yeah.
But the House of Reps retained it at 7.5. And there's a particular section of the VAT system which was also revised to ensure that Section 22, precisely, to ensure that taxable supplies are attributed to their places of consumption irrespective of where returns are filed, addressing the concern of regional imbalance. I want you to speak to this in such a way that a layman who is watching us right now will understand the balancing of this VAT system.
Okay, so I hope Taiwo Oyedele is listening so that he can pay for consultancy. And so that's a very beautiful aspect of this reform bill. You know that his committee was pushing for 15%. We're formally paying 5%, and you know, House of Reps, in their compassionate disposition, put it at 7.5, which is quite considerable. And looking at it too, the derivation formula came into play, where federal government, I think about 10%, state government about 55%, and local government at 35%. And the beauty of this law now is that it goes directly to these arms of government. Before it goes to federal government, the share, in fact, federal allocation.
But it's still under contention anyway. Because
no, it will fly.
The governors are still saying that no,
it will fly.
Don't let the local government get this funds.
It will fly because Mr. President is a man of the people. Look at what he did on local government autonomy. He wanted, you know, direct access to your leaders. And that's why he signed it into law. And that was very bullish. And I tell you, it's going to happen too, where derivation formula will be upheld. every tier of government will get it directly, and they can use it. Go to advanced countries, it goes to them directly. In fact, your local government, which is your municipal area, you know, you report to them directly, and they take care of you directly. And so, going back to the 7.5% VAT, I think it's a very fair deal, and we have come to accept it. And you see, but for me, the beauty of this VAT tax is it's not more about what comes into government. But for me, speaking to government directly on this reform is, you know, accountability of managing these taxes. And that's what Nigerians want to see. Now that we have a system where, you know, these deductions will come from source, we have a system now that
it's not attributed to their places of consumption.
It's not attributed to their place of consumption, which also means there that, you know, their uproar before now was that, okay, MTN head office is in Lagos, and people buy a recharge card from each of these states. Look at alcohol, for instance. The head office probably in the east, one or two of them. And, you know, we consume in Lagos, we consume everywhere. But in the north, they don't consume, and we share alcohol tax together. And so now the law is very clear that it is where it is being consumed that you know, those taxes will be remitted. So it means that it is not going to be attributed to a particular state. Now it is going to be shared across board, and that is what the Northerners wanted to see, because they felt that Lagos, and that's why they said that Lagos will get about 80% in all of these things. But it's very clear now that Lagos will not even get up to 15%. It's going to be spread across every state that there is consumption. And that's why we say that, you know, holistically, the intention of Mr. President was very clear. He had a mindset that, you know, we needed those reforms very urgently. And it was not particularly meant for a particular region, you know, in this country. And so we can see now that there's more sensitization, that it's a very clear intention, and it is, you know, to affect people like us who are part of the masses. You know? Thank you.
One of the things that the lawmakers also looked at, Section 75 of the bill, which also gave power to Mr. President to exempt companies from income tax. Now, they amended that to say that you must now obtain, the president must now obtain
and the National Assembly.
Of the National Assembly.
Yes.
Do you think that that's workable? Well, it will be now, because once it becomes law, it is binding. But why do you think that became necessary? Is it also to put a check and balance on the executive, so that the executive also does not take, you know, make decisions at fiat level and then just accord some companies rebate, whether necessary or not?
Thank you for that. The discussion came up majorly where, because we sent representatives to that hearing, and, you know, some questions came up. Look at free trade zones. We have Lekki Free Trade Zone is there. There's even a private one. I can't remember the name now. Also in that axis, look at where this new TV station is now. This
Eco Atlantic.
Eco Atlantic too. It's also being developed as a free trade zone. Look at all these free trade zones. A presidential fiat to say that do not tax or build them on taxes on this one, it's not very tidy if you look at it in real sense, because every aspect of the economy that is being placed on taxes should cut across. And, you know, for Mr. President alone to have that fiat, to be able to decide where and where will not be taxed as a free trade zone is quite enormous on the executive side. And that's where, you know, democracy still plays a big role here. Mr. President will always tell you, obey the rule of law, follow the rule of law. And that's part of what we are talking. And that's the beauty of an administration like this, where, you know, the National Assembly also has a voice. And in place of National Assembly, it is the people, it is the masses to sit down together and decide which area should be taxed, which areas should be left. And with this one, Mr. President still has a say. It means that he can still politically, you know, not veto now. he will use his, how do I put it now, dexterity to lobby, that's the right word, thank you, to lobby National Assembly to also get what he wants. But that word lobby is a healthy conversation, and that's how it should be. Yes.
Okay, I also wanted to speak to amendments that were made to reporting threshold for banking transactions, Section 28, raising them from 25 million to 50 million for individuals and from 100 million to 250 million for corporate entities, along what is going to stand as benefits for SMEs in the country. Yes. You mentioned earlier that if you earn below 100 million naira, you're not going to pay tax.
Yes.
And for those SMEs whose income is not above, I think it's 50 million?
Yes, 50.
They are not going to pay tax as well. So what does this portend for the growth of the SMEs?
Yeah, so that's still part of what, you know, everything we've been talking about this morning, you know, still goes back to the economy as a plus for Nigerians. You know, low-income earners for personal income tax, that's PITA, is virtually free. It means that everybody on minimum wage will not pay personal income tax. It's free. Everybody on minimum wage. And we know the percentage of Nigerians on minimum wage at that level. So it's beautiful. And above that, it starts from, I think, about, 7% to 12% to 13 to 18, then to 21, 22. Now, for company income tax, look at it, from about 50 million threshold to about 100 million. It portends that, you know, Nigerian companies, MSMEs, you didn't add that, you know, MSMEs will be able to do more business. MSMEs will be able to grow. And, you know, it translates directly to employment. It means that before the end of 2025, unemployment after rebasing at about 4.5 or 4.7% will drop. And it will drop drastically because you can employ more and also pay. And everybody you are paying at minimum wage level will not also pay tax to government. Wow. So government is only focusing on, you know, high net worth individuals and bigger companies at the rate in which it is stipulated. So in all, this benefits portends for everybody. Nigeria will grow.
Nigeria will grow. Yes. Okay. So in the issue of the removal of inheritance tax, that also was amended in the Nigerian tax bill to exclude income on inherited assets before distribution.
That's before distribution.
Before distribution. Yes. Can you quickly take us through what obtained before this came on board? Because again, it was clear that before distribution. So what was it before the House amended this section?
Okay, so that's another beautiful aspect of the law, and that's why, you know, we always speak good when we see, you know, things like this. And so before now, if you want to, if you inherit properties or asset, let's use the word asset, if you want to go for your administration or you want to go for probate, yes, before distribution, they are taxed. And it is usually 10% to government after valuation. Okay. Yes.
So distribution, would it be after it is sold or whatever is
before it is being distributed by
the family.
You know, by the family. You know, you appoint administrators, we call them admos, to oversee the asset or the estate. Thank you for that word. So before distribution, before perfection, you must pay to government. And this aspect of this law is now saying that before you distribute, there's no tax. No tax.
May I ask this? Where is that money coming from? That I mean,
which money now?
No. I mean, before distribution, why are you getting taxed for?
No, you get that. Okay, for instance, now, a deceased left a property. What about 100 million, for example? Now you want to transfer that asset to the family or appointed administrators. You will go to government. You will fill forms, go through documentation. At that point, the probate registrar will will bill you. You need to pay 10% by law. You must pay 10% to government by law. So the new tax administration bill is saying that because that asset now, you know, it has a value, but it has not been distributed. Right. So before, as you are processing your documentation, before distribution, there's no point in paying taxes. Mm-hmm. So, but after distribution, then applied taxes will occur. And, you know, because of religion too, I don't really want to go into religion. Some certain regions do not even believe in such form of transfer of inheritance for it to be built before now. And so, looking at the House of Rep, they had to marry all form of everything together. And that's why it is better after your inheritance has been shared, whatever profit comes from there is now being taxed, which is different from before it is even transferred, you must pay certain taxes to government, which in all, still, it is for the benefit of the people.
Okay, another thing that also caught my attention in this particular bill is the provision relating to excise duty, which were deleted across various bills due to concerns about economic impact. What does this imply for those who import into the country?
Yes, it's also a beautiful one because they believe strongly that Nigeria has been a mono economy for years, where we do not produce. We are a consumption country instead of, you know, and we want to transit from consumption to production. So if we must do that, excise duties must be dropped. And if you drop it, it gives more incentive to importers to be able to do more business. And Mr. President last year, you know, he removed so many items from the exclusive list so that Nigerians can, including food too. And that's why, you know, we see that food inflation is dropping very rapidly. And so he removed so many from exclusive list so that Nigerians can be able to bring in products. As you bring in the product, it affects businesses from wholesale to retail. And removing that excise duty, you will see what will begin to come into. And everything, like I said, is for the benefit of Nigerians, where excise is removed completely at 5%. But the major point from the National Assembly was that it will affect FX positively, it will affect production positively, it will affect job creation positively, and, you know, equitable distribution of wealth to go across to.
Would that bring down the price of vehicles and, of course, what people pay when they bring in their vehicles into the country?
Well, you know, a major component of that level of importation is FX, is the dollars.
Right.
So, if the dollar continues to play a major role, it might not affect, you know, significantly, but it will affect just a little bit, but it will not affect very significantly. And in the last 3 to 5 months, we have also seen that there's stability in dollars. There's stability in dollars. You know, there are fluctuations once in a while, but there's stability in dollars at about 1,500 to 1,550 to 80, thereabouts.
Okay.
Yes.
But in your opinion, do you think that you know, this reform is able to improve tax collection and make it more efficient? And again, I know you mentioned earlier that the issue about Nigeria being a mono economy.
Yes.
And so is this also able to help Nigeria find a balance around diversifying our economy?
Beautiful. In terms of the first one,
the tax efficiency collection.
Okay, so for the collection,
because if you're now going to be taxing only the bigger individuals, you're leaving you know, the smaller ones. Will that translate to more revenue for government?
Yes. So if you look at the third one you mentioned and the fourth one, that's the Nigerian Revenue Service Bill, and the fourth one is the Joint Revenue Board Tax Bill. Both is centered around collection and management by the board. Now, in terms of that collection, there were several laws that were, you know, tweaked thereabout, you know, for collection. So it means that from start, which is, before now, you don't even know where to pay your taxes. You don't know how much you are to pay. Okay. You need a consultant to be able to go through tax processes. You need an admin department or an account department of an organization to be able to pull through. But as we speak now, there's clarity of purpose in this bill, whereby from your own desk, you can calculate your taxes. You can get your TIN, that is your TIN, that's your identification number. You can get your TIN. You can know the tax area where you will pay to. On the comfort of your seat, you will get receipts, acknowledgement, and you will know you get your statement directly. And so the collection part of it has been simplified, whereby technology will play a very big role as we speak for collections. And in terms of management, that's why they want to set up the revenue board. That revenue board basically will take charge, and I want to believe strongly that IFRS may be changed to NTB. Okay. No, Nigerian Tax Board or so. Maybe.
Ajibola, sorry, just to ride on what you've said now. I think this was where also some Nigerians were skeptical whether or not bodies like the Nigerian Customs Service, the Nigerian Immigration, FIRS, like you mentioned, may be scrapped or may come under one body. So if the FIRS, with a name change, how do we accommodate all of these organizations that one way or the other also collect revenue for the federal government? Okay,
so there has been conversations around that already, and it started during the last quarter of last year, and I strongly believe that maybe before the end of the second quarter, if I have the opportunity to come back here, you will see that so many of their collection mechanism will be harmonized. Right. That's one thing I know, because we are part of the discussions too. Okay. It will be harmonized. Talk of customs, immigrations.
So everybody would pay one channel of payment?
The payment will go into one channel directly. The institutions that they want to use, we cannot tell. We cannot tell. But we know that they are tweaking around the technology to be able to harmonize those. And on a single spreadsheet, you can see from which institution what is coming, and the CBN, Ministry of Finance can monitor adequately. But we know that it's going to be harmonized very soon. It will be harmonized.
Okay, talking about harmonization and making the tax system very efficient, how do we also leverage on technology to block loopholes? Because we all know there is no system that is 100% foolproof.
Yes, so that's part of the conversation now, that part of the law stipulates it very clearly that technology will play a very big role in terms of collection. And if that comes into play, already now, we are very clear, like I said earlier, on what to pay, how to pay. Nigerians are getting more sensitized, and information needs to just spread more, and things will work well. So if Nigerians begin to ask the right questions, and they see what their tax payment is being used for, it will also put the people in this form of administration into perspective, and it will put them on their toes. But I know that technology is being tinkered upon to harmonize these taxes. Nigerians at your comfort zone will be able to see what goes into government in terms of your payment, the acknowledgement, your feedback from them, and we can even project as a country or as even institutions to see if government is really giving back to its citizens.
Okay. Yes. One of the many Nigerians that will be exempted from this will be the military personnel.
Oh, yes.
The House did say that on their personal income, they will be exempted, stating that the reason is due to the critical nature of their assignment. Is it the only military? Is it only the military that fall into the category of critical nature?
That's the law. But it's not only the military. But if you look at this law very well, Critical sectors too were also considered. Hospitals will also get exemptions.
Okay.
Maybe not fully, if I check well. Hospitals will get exemptions, and one or two other sectors too. But the military, in most climes, because most of these laws we get from foreign countries where it has worked well, and we look at it to confine it to the Nigerian way. And so the military is very important in every aspect. Look at their pensions too. They do not do the normal contributory pension scheme that every other person does. By law, they don't. They don't pay withholding tax. For them too, that's the military. Military investment do not pay withholding tax. So for them, it's an incentive to boost their morale. Look at the level of insecurity. Now, the military men know that they are not going to be taxed on personal income tax, which is beautiful in nature. Okay. And so, for military, you know, our heart will always go out for them because of the job they do in terms of protecting our borders and territory.
Okay.
Yes.
Jibola, you done? Okay, before we allow you go, now that you know the members of the House of Representatives have given their nod, then we'll move to the Senate.
To the Senate.
Are you positive that this will be the final, or do you see the senators also wanting to make some amendments before it is finally passed?
Okay, so if you look at it before now, it went to the Senate.
It came back.
The Senate, the Senate had already done their job.
Their own...
Beautiful. It was the same House of Reps that, the issues, came up from, and it was dropped for a bit for further consultation. Now that the consultations are concluded from the same House of Reps, take it to the Senate, give them 2-3 days. It will fly.
It will fly, and then it will be sent to Mr. President.
It will fly, yes.
For the final assent.
Yes.
Okay.
So before the end of the first quarter, we should have the tax reform bill as a law.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I think we'll have to leave this conversation here this morning. Thank you so much, Oluseyi Odufuwa, for always finding time to enlighten us here on the program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. When the conversation returns, Adebimpe will take on her guest on the Lagos Conversation.